I'm Jazmine Darden, and I'm a teacher at Dunwoody College. I teach 3D printing in a one-year program that we just started offering about 3 years ago. I'm also an entrepreneur, so I love starting businesses or creating new products. I'm really big into 3D printing, so I use that as a tool to create whatever's on my mind. And just recently, I started as the director of the Young Inventor Challenge with People of Play. So that's where kids ages 6 to 18 can create toys and games and then pitch them to the industry. I absolutely love 3D printing and CAD design. So when I come up with ideas, I can sketch them out, design them using the computer, and then 3D print them out. I actually have 17 3D printers, but not because I'm using them all the time. I do a lot of youth outreach. So when I go into a school and I'm working with a classroom of 25, 30 students, I need to have a lot of 3D printers so each kid can go home with something at the end of the day. Outside of the classroom and outside of 3D printing, I have a lot of hobbies actually. I love being like fit active, I would call it. So this year I got into mountain biking and into skiing and bouldering, which is rock climbing without a harness, which sounds insane. When I was young, I loved math and science. Those were definitely my strong suits. I was good in school and they also just intrigued me. I was a lot better in math and science than I was in reading and English. So I kind of stuck with that. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I grew up. I was really intrigued by amusement park rides. So I'd go to like Valley Fair or other amusement parks around the country, and I would just watch the rides and how they work and roller coasters. So my original dream job was to build and design roller coasters, but I had no idea what that exactly meant. In high school, then I took a physics class where we learned about roller coasters and the physics behind roller coasters worked. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go into physics. And that's what I did. I went to Augsburg College and graduated with degrees in both mathematics and physics, but still not really knowing what direction I wanted to go. I started hearing the term engineering and I wanted to be an engineer. But even still, that's a really broad term. You know, there's civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, software engineers. So I needed to start narrowing down what type of engineering I wanted to get into. I knew that I wanted to go to a four-year college. I knew I wanted to live in the dorms. I knew I wanted to play basketball. But I, for some reason, stopped at Dunwoody that day and got a tour and knew that's what my next step was. And now I have a whole new way of thinking on technical college. So I went back to school and got my degrees in engineering, drafting, and design, which is pretty much like product development, where we learned CAD design, designing products on the computer, and then we learned 3D printing. I was in the machine shop working on a mill and a lathe, kind of CNCing out metal components. We work with a laser cutter, CNC router, just a lot of different types of manufacturing. And I really learned how parts are made. So I got an internship with Proto Labs, and that was working with injection molding. And now I can never look at a plastic part the same again. Like every time I look at a plastic part, I can tell exactly how it was ejected out of the mold, where the gate was. It's just incredible once you start learning about how things are made. I realized in my work now that the math and science courses that I took, all the way starting from middle school and in high school, how important those were. So when I'm designing new parts, everything needs dimensions. I need to know how big the part is going to be. How big is each hole going to be? What is the diameter? What is the radius? And those are things you learn, like I said, starting back in middle school math, high school math, and even my college math courses, where to me, it just comes really naturally when I'm designing. But I've noticed with some of my college students, we have to take a step back and think about the algebra again and think about how to add and subtract fractions because we're using a ruler with dimensions. So the courses that I took way back when, they do come back around in your work. A day in the life for me is I literally live by my Google Calendar. Honestly, every day is completely different. I do things like this. I have meetings with people for the Young Inventor Challenge, talking about game education and how it can be placed in the classroom. I'm working on curriculum for my own classroom with my 3D printing students, grading papers, running open houses. Like I said, I'm really big into 3D printing, so I'll find little things around the house that need to be printed, or I'll find something that I can sell online, especially during holiday time. But for me, my most important tool is my Google Calendar. Like I live by my Google Calendar. I also have a notebook. So when I have ideas, I'm full of ideas all the time. I have to write those down because I'll forget. And when COVID happened and the lockdown happened, my life came to a complete standstill. Like everything that I was doing got shut down. And so, I was just kind of sitting around figuring out what that next thing is that I was going to get into. And I saw that there was a Boy Scout, I forget what state he was from, but out east, who was 3D printing these ear savers that the elastic from your mask will sit in the ear saver and rest on the back of your neck instead of the elastic sitting on the back of your ears, which was causing irritation for people. So some of you guys might recognize already when you say that, like, yeah, the back of my ears are pretty sore from wearing my mask. That's where the idea from the ear saver came from. So everyone started posting it on my Facebook page because I'm the 3D printing person. So when anything cool 3D printing is happening, it gets posted on my Facebook. And I knew I could help. So with all of my 3D printers, I went to print that kid's file, but it was too big. So I had to come up with my own design. And I started a business a few years ago called I Am, and it's all about positive thinking. So like, I am strong, I am brave, I am healthy, I am creative, just telling yourself these positive words. So why not tie that into the ear savers when we were in such a dark time? Like no one knew what was going to happen. Here we are a year later. We still don't know what's going to happen. So I started first by 3D printing them, and this was my design. So you can see it says I am strength. They are pretty flexible, but the elastic from the mask would sit in these little cutouts that I have here, and then it sits on the back of your neck. And I printed these with 9 different words and in multiple different color combinations. And I kind of threw it out on my Facebook to see what would happen. And overnight, I had orders from, like, my first order was from Texas. I don't even know how this person found me, but everyone was sharing it. And I was just getting order after order after order. And I'm like typing to people on Facebook, what is your address? And I was asking for donations because the more donation money came in, the more I could keep printing and putting them out. Advice that I would give to maybe my younger self or to anyone watching this is, you can do it. So for me, I thought I was held back because I didn't have a necessarily role model near me that could help guide me to that next step. When it came time to think about college, I di- I didn't even know the first step to apply or look for grants or how the FAFSA works. I remember my first college visit was to St. Thomas, and I thought it was so cool that they had Wi-Fi on the entire campus. And then I realized every other college has that as well. So I didn't even know what things I was looking for when it was time for applying for college. But the one thing that has gotten me to where I am today is just my yes attitude towards new opportunities coming my way. So ask questions. If there's something that you're really interested in, people want to help. So just ask. That's what I do is I'm like, I'm really interested in what you're doing. Can you tell me more about it? People love to talk about themselves. But you never know who you're sitting next to at lunch, who you're sitting next to on an airplane. You just get into conversations with them and it can always lead into some new opportunities.